Today I'm going to share something that has been one of the most transformational things that both my husband and I have done and that we have done with our children. And I'm going to share exactly how you can do it in your own families. Stay tuned to find out how you can create those deeper connections, those stronger bonds, and a more intentional way of living together. Whether you're seeking to improve communication or making these joint discussions, or maybe even just simply strengthening those family ties, today's insights and strategies are going to help you cultivate a home filled with greater unity, greater success, and more intentionality. So stay tuned. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important, unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Hey friends, welcome back to episode number 137. From chaos to collaboration, building stronger families with effective counsels. I've been thinking a lot about successful families and what makes them successful because I love studying those kinds of people and what they do to thrive. And then I like to do those same things in our own family. And I've been thinking about what has especially made our family the most successful in our daily lives. Well, the last several weeks, we've gotten back into a habit that has been really important, and I want to get back into that with our family as well. But my husband and I have initially started that, and there's been times when my kids and I do this as well, and I'm going to break down what that looks like exactly. But when I'm really rocking it as a parent, I do one-to-one counsels with my kids and a one-to-one counsel weekly with my husband. The same goes for my interns and my team at work. And as I was thinking about this, I was reminded that the most growth I see in people comes only after counseling together and doing those weekly counsels. That's exactly why therapy works, because it's a weekly counsel. But how many of us actually do weekly counsels? And how can we make them simple and easy to replicate so that we will if we're not? Now, if you're anything like me, you kind of find the word counsel to be right on par with like chores. And it's not a very fun word to say or to think about because it feels like work. Well, after this episode, I'm pretty convinced that you are going to see it differently. Today is all about living a purposeful life, in this episode specifically, instead of living life like you're half alive and just going through the motions. Living intentionally means aligning your actions with your priorities and your values and your goals, and consciously choosing how you want to spend your time and energy to create a life that reflects your true desires. It's about embracing each day that you have as an opportunity to align your actions with your values and create a life that is meaningful and a life that is fulfilling. And as you know, I'm all about fulfillment, right? So the way that we can do this is through counsels, and not just counsels, but effective counsels. So, like I said, check that gag response and let's shift that mindset a little bit into something that doesn't feel like work, but feels like joy. That might feel impossible to you as you're thinking about your own counsels that you've had, but hang in there. And remember, nothing that is worthwhile is ever easy. I want to start with a quote by Dr. Sue Johnson. She wrote Hold Me Tight, and she does emotionally focused therapy. She's amazing. And she said, family counsels serve as a valuable tool for nurturing healthy relationships, fostering mutual respect, and strengthening family bonds through meaningful dialogue and shared decision making. And as a reminder, all those quotes and tips, you can find them in the show notes. But what she is saying here is that these really help nurture a good, healthy family relationship, and they help build that respect and those bonds that we're really looking to build when there is shared decision making and not just this controlling atmosphere where it's more of like a dictatorship than a democracy. So I'm going to give you 7 simple tips to improve your family counsels, and then I'm going to give you a few stories to show you how we do it. Number 1, establish clear goals. So this is where you define the purpose and the objective of your counsel. So whether you're trying to improve communication or make those joint decisions, this really helps create that sense of belonging in your family. Now, I mentioned this can go a lot of different ways. So it can be a couples review, like a weekly couples review. And that's what my husband and I do. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But that can also be a weekly, or if you really don't think you can do that, even monthly family review. Now, with our family size, we have 7 people with my exchange student, and it is impossible to not do weekly family counsels. And this can be as simple as checking in about your week, sharing your schedule, sharing things that maybe you need extra support on or support with, or things to be aware of. Like sometimes my daughter says, this is going to be a really big week with play practice and different things. I just need you guys to be a little more patient with me if I'm not doing my chores as well, or if I'm not around for dinner, things like that. So we can kind of have a heads up and communicate a little bit more. So that's what number 1 is about. So establishing what it is that you're going to do in this meeting and what it's for. So for our weekly family meetings, it's just simply to collaborate about the week and to ask for support, sometimes even ask for extra prayers or things like that. But it can also be help with goals or things like that. I found with so many of us in the family, I do one-on-ones with my kids, and that's when I talk more about their goals or their desires or things that they want to do, whether it's for the summer or for the school year. And we can collaboratively help them live a more intentional life and break things down into smaller steps. And I'll talk about that in a minute too. But number 2, create a safe and open environment. So this is where we encourage that open dialogue, that active listening, and that mutual respect to make sure every family member feels comfortable with expressing their thoughts and opinions. So you really have to shut it down when somebody is being unkind and disrespectful. Take them aside and explain why that's not okay, and that is a boundary that you will not allow them to cross. And that's going to happen a couple times until they get it. Number 3, set regular meeting times. For us, this is always on Sunday before the craziness of the week starts. And we do this for us like before church. And we've just done this so regularly that they know to like bring their planners if they're older or whatever that might be. But the more that you do it, the more you get dialed in, and that schedule time can stay the same. So when you have that consistency, it really helps establish that routine and reinforces the importance of communication and that intentionality. Number 4, rotate leadership roles. Now, depending on the ages of your kids, this may or may not be as effective, depending on if they're too young, but you can rotate that leadership role so that everyone has an opportunity to contribute and even take responsibility. and even give their own little spin on things as far as like their strengths and what they think it could look like, how they could shift it a little bit according to their learning style. So again, it's not a dictatorship, but it's something where everybody can contribute. Number 5, use tools. For example, kids space out if you don't have something like their planner in front of them or the family calendar. Like we have a big family calendar that we put up and we talk about the month and we write things down. And that gets motivating for them when you're putting the good things on there and not just the like, we have to do this and we have to do this, but it can be more of a fun thing. Like even bring a treat or an appetizer, whatever it is, something to that to make it so there's more buy-in and have it be fun and light. Set a timer if you often one of you will lecture or give too much advice or talk about random things and get off track, whatever it is, something where they can all feel like, okay, I'm willing to do this because there's enough good things about this to make me be on board. That doesn't mean you're going to eliminate all complaints, but it can manage them more. This also helps them visualize their goals and track progress. I love to do this with my clients because it's motivating when we see progress. So in the future, I cannot wait when it happens, but I don't know when, I'm going to have an app. I'm going to have a planner. I'm going to have all these things that will be able to document your progress and that will be able to show how you are growing, not just individually, but collectively as a family and what exactly that looks like. So in the future, that is coming, just so you know, because I recognize how important it is to be able to see your progress, not just for you, but for every family member. Number 6, I just have 2 more, so 6 and 7. Implement decision-making processes. So establish this clear decision-making process to make sure that all voices in your family are heard, no matter how young or old they are, and that they're listened to. So you're not just steamrolling them and making your own decisions. Sometimes I totally do that as one of the main implementers of things in my home. I'm kind of like the CEO often of the home because I'm with the kids the most. And I have to remind myself that all people need to be able to have a chance to lead and to be listened to be heard, and to make those decisions. Okay, this is the last one, number 7. Reflect and adapt. So if you really want an effective family council or couple council, then ask for feedback from whoever's in that group and make adjustments as needed to improve that communication and that collaboration. Because we all have different needs and different desires and different learning styles. So it's important to keep that in mind and not be overly pushy, overly focused on how we like things, but collaborative, which is not always easy. Dr. Dan Siegel said this: by creating a space for open communication and collaborative decision-making, family councils empower parents and children alike to contribute their perspectives, preferences, and priorities, ultimately leading to greater harmony and happiness within the family. Isn't that great? So it creates that space for open communication and for that joint decision-making. This is empowering to all the family members. And it leads to that greater peace in the home and that greater happiness and fulfillment. So like I mentioned in the beginning, my husband and I do a couples review, and we just got back into the habit. So we do that every Sunday at 8 a.m., making it very consistent. And we've already individually planned our weeks out so that when we come together, we then collaborate on our schedules. And we do some family planning of our own before we go to the family at large. And after that, we have our laptop, we pull up a Google Sheet, and we quickly share the following things. So this is really transformational. I might have briefly shared some of this before, but it is worth repeating. So we share connection bids and wins that we've noticed from our spouse. So this is things like, I noticed that you were trying to connect with me and you were doing more physical touch, or you were doing little acts of service, or you filled up my water bottle like I love, or you brought me a snack when I was busy working all day. And it was so sweet. And I really noticed that, and it made a difference. And I want you to notice that I saw that. So that's, again, just quickly things that you've noticed that your spouse did and wins that you've had either together or as a family, or even, this isn't quite as much individual because I do my own things individually, like wins that I notice, I track on my own. But that might be something that you want to mention, that you want to celebrate together. And then we talk about what connection bids we've done ourselves and the wins that we've had for the relationship. And I like both of those, what we've noticed in others, and then what you've noticed in your spouse, and then what you noticed in each other. Because then you can see that lens through, like it's a double win. And it's, unless you do it, it's hard to visualize maybe what I'm talking about. But things you may not have noticed when your spouse is talking about these things, you're like, oh yeah, they did do more that I didn't see. So you're getting all of this positivity that you may not have recognized in the daily grind of things. And then after that, we talk about how we're prioritizing what's important to our family, or those values that really care about. So for us, that's spirituality, that's movement, that can be a number of things. That can be service, whatever that is. We talk about how we're prioritizing that together. Maybe that can be less screens, but it's usually the positive part. So more movement, more nature. And then we talk about any issues that need discussing. So this is our one time a week where we make space for, if there's a problem, we can talk through it. And keep in mind, we just talked about the wins. So we're happier, we're more focused on the positive right now. And we are in a better space to hear this. And we've also had more space from any issues that have come up, like maybe a few days, and it doesn't feel so charged. So we have that space to do that one time a week so that we can be less problem focused throughout the week. The last thing that we talk about is what we want to get done that week for the family and anything in the future that we want to be aware of. So this whole thing usually takes about 30 minutes. Now, there are times when this can take longer if there's a bigger issue to bring up or something like that, but we really try to keep it brief so that we don't go into bad habits and old patterns of being problem-focused or overly sensitive or defensive or any of those things that often take place if it's too long. So keep that in mind. Like I said a minute ago, this really reminds us of the good things and helps us be on the same page. And I really do feel like that individual tracking of these same things, plus that couples review each week, really sets the stage and builds that foundation for effective family councils after those two things have occurred. And it keeps us living much more intentionally, both individually and collectively. It also helps us see things through the lens of the other person, and then afterwards, when we're doing it with family, through the lens of our children. So things that may not be an issue to us might feel more like an issue to them, and this gives them space to talk about that and feel heard and seen. What also happens is family members feel more empowered, and they get excited about their growth and even the collaboration, as long as we keep it fun and we give them power too. So you have to explore what works best for your family as far as how long, what time would be best, what could I do to get their buy-in. Maybe that, like I said, is a snack. Maybe that's a shorter time. Maybe that's rotating who leads or whatever that is. You could ask them what would make it more fun for them, where they would be more on board. Again, if you're helping them with certain goals that they're excited about, usually they don't fight you on it. If you're just talking about chores and all the things that are not very fun, then there's going to be resistance. But usually those one-on-one counsels with my kids that I do, the ones that I reserve for after family councils, those can be very brief, but it's often around things they're passionate about, and they don't fight me on it. They're excited about that because they want help getting better at tennis or the ukulele or ballroom or whatever it is, and they want help breaking that down. Okay, that reminds me of a quick story I want to share, and this connects to one-on-one planning. So remember how I talked about breaking things down, like bigger goals down into smaller goals? That's really what helps the kids succeed and what helps anyone succeed. Well, I was watching a show recently that talked about this woman who was the sole survivor of a plane crash. This plane landed in a jungle, and she has never lived in a jungle or explored a jungle before. And she broke her legs and her hips, and all around her were dead bodies. And despite that, she said she felt really calm. And she shared how she felt or heard, I can't remember which, a voice throughout that time giving her instructions for 8 days as she lay there. It told her what to do, and it gave her that reassurance and told her to just focus on breaking things down into small steps so that she could survive. And so she did. She made these makeshift cups from foil from the wreckage, and later they filled with rainwater so that she would have enough water to survive for the days ahead. And this woman talked about how she really did feel peaceful throughout this experience. And as she was talking, I had several takeaways. It's just such a powerful story and a powerful interview. But one of the takeaways that I had was the universal law of breaking things down into small steps. We do that in our councils too, so that we'll have individual and collective success. It's so hard to see that something can actually change and improve unless we have these bite-sized, tiny steps to help us do that. And we can show our kids how to do that in those council meetings. Peter Senge said this, and I'm going to apply it to families afterwards, but he said, by embracing collaboration as a core value and integrating it into every aspect of organizational culture, businesses can harness the full potential of their workforce and achieve transformative outcomes. Now I'm going to shift this to families because I think families are the key to changing our world. Now this is my take on it. By embracing collaboration as a core value and integrating it into every aspect of family culture, families can harness their individual and collective potential and achieve transformative results. Now, I don't always like collaboration. I've mentioned that in past episodes because I am very efficient. I get things done quickly and well, and sometimes it's hard to slow my pace and meet that of the others in the room and work with them in ways that might be different. But I do recognize how much good comes from actually doing that when I humble myself, when I slow down, when I put aside my pride, and I collaborate. Like I think about our couple councils, and those have been completely transformational for our family, and I know that they will be for yours, and I see that happen with my clients. I'm going to end with this very, very short quote from John C. Maxwell. He said, "Collaboration is multiplication." My friends, it truly is. If you want to calm that chaos and build stronger families, then create effective councils. If you want to live more intentionally and not just half alive going through the motions, then begin these weekly councils. I'd encourage you to start with first your own, doing a quick weekly review, and then doing a couples review. And once you have that for a month or so, then start to do small ones with your family. It does not have to be big. It can be 10 minutes a week. And then you can go from there and build it and refine it. Best of luck to you, my friends, in creating those strong councils, those effective family and couple councils. Until next time. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.